Inputting notes with the mouse is rarely the quickest way to work, but it's a good way to get started in Dorico, so let's spend a few minutes on that. But first, let's check out the panels in write mode. In the left panel, you've got notes, articulations, and all sorts of related tools. And in the right panel, there's basically everything apart from notes. There are sections for clefs, key signatures, time signatures, dynamics, and so on. And the bottom panel, aka the Properties panel, is context dependent, so it'll change depending on what's selected on screen. It's Dorico's equivalent of an inspector. Right now there's nothing selected on screen, so there are no properties here. In fact, I'm going to hide this panel. Also, I'm in Galley View, which is a linear view of your music, and the option for this is down here. Anyway, I've got a flute and a piano, and I'm ready for note input. As you may have clocked in the previous tutorial, a new flow is just a quarter note rest. Dorico doesn't make any assumptions, so you might be thinking, well, I need some bars. So let's try that. I'm going to go over to the bars section and click the Insert Bars button. I can't get any bars until I've defined a time signature, because otherwise Dorico doesn't know how long to make the bars. So I'm going to click OK and go over to the time signatures section, click one of these time signatures. You can see it's loaded on my cursor, and I can just click it onto a staff. Now this is global, by the way, so if I just undo that quickly, it doesn't matter if I put it onto the bottom staff, it's going to apply across the board. Now I can add some bars. I'm going to go for 7 at the end of the flow. Insert bars. And lastly, you need to make sure that this tool, the Select tool, is turned off. If it's turned on, you'll see that all of the note values are disabled. So I'm going to turn it off. It's off by default. To begin step entry, which is basic note input, double-click on any staff, and you'll see that this orange line appears. This is the caret, and it's like a cursor in a word processor. You can also see there's a grey ghost note that indicates pitch. These little lines above the staff are the rhythmic grid, and if you count these lines, you can see there are 8 of them marking out the eighths in this bar. It's actually dependent on what's set down here. So if I set this to 16ths, you'll see I get 16 of these little orange lines across the bar. You can think of them like snap positions. Whether you're putting in notes or dynamics or text or whatever, it's going to snap to the rhythmic grid. All the note values are on this palette, so click the note value you want and then just click it onto the staff. And switch to quarters, and back to eighths. If you want an accidental, you'll need to click it in the left panel before you put the note on the staff. I'm going to put in a half and a quarter. Let's say you wanted a rest of an eighth before the next note. Now there is a rest tool in the left panel, but it's much quicker just to put the note where you want it and let Dorico worry about the rest. No pun intended. Also in this case, because I've put a quarter over the middle point of a 4/4 bar, it has automatically split it into tied eighths for me, which is correct notation most of the time. I'm going to go back to eighths and put in a quarter. Maybe we'll have some 16ths. Maybe I'll put in some triplets here. If I click the triplet button, it's going to give me rests for 16th triplets. Now I actually want 8th triplets, so I'm going to undo that, and then click the 8th button, and then click the triplet button. Maybe a sharp here. And if you want to switch to a different staff, just click where you want the note. Most of the time, I find it quicker and easier to input notes with a keyboard, so let's move on to that.